welcome to the House of Medics. We are back with another episode of Let's Talk. Apologies for being a few minutes late. We just had a few technical difficulties, but we're live, we're ready to go. We're going to get straight into it today. You may or may not know me. My name is Dr. Emma. I'm one of the co-founders of the House of Medics, and I'm a dermatology doctor. You can see that we've got some beautiful ladies next to me. We will allow everyone to introduce themselves, and then we'll get straight into it.
Hi guys, my name is Dr. Alexis. I'm currently working as a junior clinical fellow in the south of London. Hi, happy to be on here again.
Hi, my name is Aliyah and I'm a pharmacist in the House of Medics, and I work in St. George's Hospital as a ward pharmacist.
Hi, my name's Yetunde. I'm a mental health nurse and I work as a mental health advisor at a London university.
Thank you. So yes, please do send in your comments. I can see a comment from Lydia. Good evening. Make sure you send in your comments and make sure you head over to the video and click the thumbs, give it a thumbs up, like the video. Don't send in a thumb emoji, actually like the video. Thank you very much. Okay, so you may or may not be familiar. This is our second time doing this sort of episode. In our Let's Talk series, we literally go through some of the more interesting or the newest healthcare stories that are out at the moment, and we just discuss them. We've got a very varied panel today, so I'm really looking forward to there should be very rich discussion and discussion about lots of different things. So we're just going to get straight into it. So the first news article is the Queen tests positive for COVID. So this one is fresh. I think this is brand new news just from today. Queen is positive for COVID, according to Buckingham Palace. Personally, I'm wondering why this is news, because haven't we all been positive for COVID? But it is interesting, isn't it? I think the fact that it's news is what we should discuss. So throwing it out to anybody.
I think it's news because of her age.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like there's a lot more talk of what will happen when she's no longer with us.
Yeah.
So the fact that she's got COVID and it kind of leans towards a little bit more of that. I mean, we're hoping she's with us much longer, but I think that's why it's news. And it's because she's the Queen.
I completely agree, because when you see them, you're like, well, at this point, everyone literally has had COVID, so of course. Queen has COVID. Of course, why not? But yeah, I totally agree. I think it's because she's old. Like the amount of news that I've seen since just in relation to the Queen, and just if anything that she has, like it's kind of like everybody's on like eggshells. Testing positive for COVID, just be aware.
So COVID has no respect for the foreign.
It's true.
It doesn't.
To the palace and said, "Hey, I'm here."
It does not discriminate at all.
No.
And I think that was a big deal about it when her husband got unwell as well, isn't it? And then we were all worrying about whether he was going to come out, whether he was going to be discharged, whether he was going to be okay. So I think in the sense that, we may all have COVID, but this is the Queen. They're now saying, look, this is now real. It's now even bigger and more bolder in your face. So I think it's just a warning that it is spreading a lot, and that it's kind of just just look out for things like that.
Yeah, that's true. Because I guess, Queen will just she has her own, her own set of people, her own inner circle. So the fact that it has obviously gotten to her is just...
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think as well, what I take from it kind of I hadn't really thought about it. Like Yetunde said that we are getting these little talks about what's going to happen when the Queen isn't around anymore. And this is, she's the longest reigning monarch.
Yeah.
So it is interesting, isn't it, how things are moving. Obviously this year, we've got bank holidays in June. What is it?
Yeah, it's her 70th year on the throne. Is it I think it's 70th year.
Something like that. I mean, Auntie Liz has done well, to be honest. She's really reigned with a lot of grace. If I can go there, are we pro-monarchy or not so pro-monarchy?
I love them.
Do you love them?
I love them.
Why do you love them?
They just stand for greatness, if that makes sense. And the fact that they have, if you look at how many royal families haven't really made it to this sort of generation and stayed relevant in a way in other countries, the British monarchy is standing strong. They're still going, and I think they've earned their respect
think for me, it's going to sound a bit like for and against, because I think when you live in England and you've grown up, you're just like, yeah, the Queen, okay. No offense.
Yeah.
But then when everyone comes to England, they're like, oh my God, yeah, the Queen, oh, let's go to Buckingham Palace. I'm like, for what? The soldiers standing outside, where am I going? It's cold.
Yeah.
But everyone says like England, the Queen, like that's such a big thing. So I think for this to hit the news, it is kind of like, as Lydia's rightly said, there's no respect for the phone. So I think it's also showing like an alarm, not only from what you said that, oh, our Queen, she won't always be with us and what's going to happen when she's gone, but also I think some people kind of look down at COVID. You know, you had some people that was like, oh, like COVID's nothing, but now it's like, no, the Queen has COVID, so now respect this thing, like it is a big thing, like don't just brush it under the carpet, like it's now attacked our Queen. So yeah,
I think that's a really good point, that to just show that, you know, you can't escape this thing. So when the guidelines are coming out, even though we know the government doesn't follow them, when the guidelines are coming out, they are in place for you, because even the Queen and all her preciousness, even she's not protected from this thing. So it is very much a real something. So yeah, I agree with you. Cool. Should we head to the next one? Right. So again, still on the COVID line. England to offer COVID jab to 5 to 11-year-olds. What do we think about this?
I think it's quite interesting that they, obviously they're, now that they're offering the COVID jab to 5 to 11-year-olds, it'd just be interesting to see how, I guess once the younger children are able to have the vaccinations and things, I guess, I don't know how to explain it. It's like they were sort of put as the population that was sort of at the least risk, if that makes sense. So I can see how people might feel some type of way about it, because, you know, in the beginning it was kind of like the younger kids, they're not really the ones that are affected, but obviously, you know, kids do still get COVID, and especially for the ones that are immunocompromised and those don't really have like an immune system to fight off COVID. So it's good in that sense, but it's just interesting to, you know, we'll eventually get the data, won't we, about how effective it is.
I think for children, it's really about their parents, really.
exactly.
Because they can't make the decision.
Yes, it's the parents that make it.
As to whether or not to get vaccinated. So whether the uptake is really going to depend on what the parents know, how they feel about vaccinations in general.
As the only mother on the panel,
I was thinking about, so when my child had his 8-week immunisation, so like the MMR and all those ones. Culturally, you hear a lot of what's in those vaccinations, etc., etc. But I had to sit down and think, okay, with the year we've just had, I had a child in a pandemic. It's shown me that, measles might not be a thing anymore, but if enough people don't vaccinate, in 5 years it could become a thing again.
Exactly.
So I was like, I just have to trust that the people who've created this vaccination is not out there to harm. Like, do your research and make an informed decision. Don't just go off rumours and cultural pressure and sometimes religious beliefs. Like, listen to the facts and the science, if that makes sense. And make your decision. But that's why I said it. Even this COVID jab is going to be up to the parents.
And I love what you said so much, because I do think it's all about informed choice. And I think especially in our community, the Black community, often we just say a lot of things, but you know, where those things came from, no one has researched it. It's just that this auntie said it, so everyone says it, and then it becomes fact. But actually it's so far from fact. So I love that so much. It's so important to make informed decisions. Like there's really no excuse, because the information is all over the internet. Everybody has a phone, everybody has access to Google. So literally just go and research it yourself, have, you know, your own facts. If you have questions to ask, there are actually places you can ask. You know, you can ask when you go to the vaccine clinic. You can ask the nurses. You know, there's really no excuse for not making informed decisions in this year and age. So I think that's so key. I think also in terms of, so I think like the MMR and the other vaccines, they're one-off vaccines. I think my only thing is that, so we're going to be doing this every year, like the flu vaccine.
They've even written like percentages of how effective it is after, you know, 5 weeks, after 10 weeks and things, and it just sort of dwindles off.
Yeah, because they say once you've had COVID, you have the same immunization as someone who's actually had the vaccine for like 8 weeks or something. So it's just like, how often do I have to keep doing this to keep my immunization up? And also, for me, because kids aged 5 to 11, now this is just me playing devil's advocate. Obviously, I've had the jab myself, but at the same time, I'm like, I know that age group, they're not affected really and truly. Like they're the ones that are running around with COVID, you'll never really know. So it's more, I guess it is that herd immunity to protect the older generation, but at the same time, will it get to a point where this is now going to wear off and they're going to get to that age where they have the decision and then they decide not to do it? So how effective are we going to be now? Like until 11 fair, we've got 5 more years till they make their own decision.
And then what? And then what?
But if they've been having it, they're more likely to just be like, why not at 16?
Depends.
True.
It's true. Well, you
Majority.
do have the rebels, but
there will be the rebels.
I do think, I don't know, I think and I also think we don't really have long-term data. I think, like I said, I've had the vaccine, I do believe it's safe, but you know, what it has the potential of doing in 60 years' time, we don't know. And I think, as you've said, you know, the kids are usually okay when they have COVID. It's a very, very small number of kids that become very unwell from it. So if you do that risk-benefit analysis, I'm not sure if I was a mother, would I be having taking my child had the vaccine? I'm not sure. I think it's really difficult for parents these days, actually, to make these decisions.
There's a lot out there.
A lot.
And they're such a vulnerable group. In the sense that
you want to protect your child.
But
you also want the best for them.
Brand new and maybe not exposed to much physically as well, just because they haven't spent as much years on the earth, if that makes sense. So you almost want to protect that. But you do have to weigh up with doing what's safe for them when it comes to sickness.
It's true, but then you think at 5, where are you going when you're not by my side? You're at nursery or you're with me. You know what I mean?
But that's true. So actually,
it's true at nursery.
At nursery.
So it's going through, like, winter was really hard for schools.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Kids were off because the numbers were going, and people were just so unwell that they weren't coming in. And obviously there's children, they don't wash their hands. Everything in their mouth. Probably the least hygienic places are schools and nurseries. It's easier to catch it there.
So what would you say if they started to make it compulsory for that age group then?
Really good argument to make it compulsory. Because they get sick, but like we said, they're not as affected in terms of like long term or I hate saying but death, or do you know what I mean? Compared to why they would have argued it for adults because of older people, for example, or NHS workers, because protecting the vulnerable. Whereas if children aren't dying,
but then again,
what's the reason for it to be
protecting the vulnerable? I guess those are the ones that are running around.
I don't know, since you've gone there, let's just keep going in that direction. Mandatory vaccine for NHS staff. Obviously the government, they rebound at the last minute. But what I think we'd all had it by then, isn't it? We'd all had the vaccine, so it wasn't going to affect us. But what are our thoughts on that whole thing? Deep sigh.
I mean, for me, I was more concerned at the levels of staffing because of that rule. Putting aside the fact that whether that's ethically correct or not to force us because of the careers we've chosen, I'm now looking at a team where many of you know that are around me all the time. My team are short-staffed at work. And already now you're telling them if you don't have the vaccine, you can't work. So then they were looking, I think they showed numbers, I think they were saying that you would lose at least like half the staff because they were refusing to get the vaccine, but so they're not going to work. So what are we going to do then? We've got not enough nurses, not enough doctors, not enough pharmacists, not enough midwives. That's even more pressure on the NHS. And we're already so backlogged from COVID as it is. And I think, yeah, I've had the vaccine, but when COVID first started, no one knew about it. I was on the COVID ward in the COVID without a vaccine. No one was worried about me then.
We weren't wearing masks at the beginning. We
weren't.
were just on the walls. Like,
I think everyone was breathing in with the nebulous, the oxygen mask, everything. You was inhaling everything. So I think, I mean, now the concern when, you know, we now know treatment, we now like know what to do and things like that. I think it was a little bit too late, and I think to pressurize people at that point, it was unfair because, you know,
there's always something very reactive rather than proactive about the government and their decisions sometimes. So I think they did the numbers and it was like 70,000 that they would lose. So obviously the majority have the power and sway the decision in that way, and that's why they sort of halted on it. But if I am going to play a little bit of devil's advocate, so before I could go into my training as a nurse, I had to be vaccinated against Hep B.
Yes, same.
It's just something I took. It wasn't, because obviously you could be exposed to certain, you know, things on the ward. So for your own safety, you took that vaccination.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why COVID vaccine?
I think here,
what's the big issue?
I think with COVID, the difference though, and I guess that goes back to the oath we took when we joined the careers, that we're here to help others and protect others. One thing I always remind myself is everything we're doing for COVID measures is to protect others, not necessarily yourself. You get the COVID vaccine because, so yes, your symptoms are less, but also it's helping those around you, those who are vulnerable. We wear our masks not to stop us necessarily, but so even if we catch it, we're not spreading it. Again, the gloves, again, like washing your hands more often and things like that. So I think it's remembering why you even joined the career in the first place, and maybe that is something that will help you with your decision.
I think that's a good point.
Oh no, all I was going to say was that just for the policy that they started to make about making, you know, NHS staff make sure they take all their vaccines and stuff. I was just going to say that if it weren't for the Omicron variant, I wonder when they would have put that in place, or if they would have. That's something I've sort of been thinking about, because obviously as new variants come and deeper understanding about COVID and its long-term effects, you're right, like usually quite really reactive on, you know, there's this new data, but there's always going to be new data, especially for the next 5-10. In fact, we're going to be, you know, we're going to have COVID clinics, and we're going to have, you know, COVID maybe specialized consultants where we'll be seeing patients who after 5 years, after 10 years have had COVID, and they'll have their symptoms. So then, you know, I see where the government are trying to go in terms of making things safe, but you know, we do have to understand that there's going to be a long-term effect from this whole pandemic, and we're only seeing the surface of it.
Very true, very true. I agree with everything, especially I 100% agree with what Yetunde said as well about the fact that we are used to having mandatory vaccines, so we shouldn't. The public may not be aware, but you know, we're used to having mandatory vaccines, and even when they introduced it for travel, you know, we're used to having mandatory vaccines for travel. You have to, you can't go to many West African countries without the yellow fever vaccine, etc. So it's not a brand new concept. So I think a lot of the outrage from maybe people who weren't in healthcare thought it was a completely brand new thing, that you can't force people to take something they don't want. Really, you know, we're kind of used to doing it. But I do think that with the COVID vaccine, it sort of hit worse because it's a very anti-British thing for government to force people to do something. I feel like British, because I even think right at the beginning of the pandemic, someone asked Boris, "Oh, is it going to be mandatory?" And he was like, "Oh no, we don't do that here." So when I heard that they were making it mandatory, I was like, "No, we don't usually do things like this. We let you know." And even those of us that when we work on the wards, like you allow your patients to make unwise decisions if that's what they want to do. We're very pro autonomy in this country. So I felt like, oh, this is it just felt anti what we do, because we usually just let people make their own decisions. You know, we've all had that patient who's like literally about to die and they self-discharge and you can't do anything. You go, okay, well, you're allowed to make unwise decisions, and then you open the door for them to go because they've made that decision. So first of all, I just felt it was a very anti-British thing, and I was like, oh, they're really going to do this. And I think other countries had done it, but I never thought it would actually happen here. And I think second of all, the thing that stood out to me was that a lot of the COVID rules weren't enforced. You know, so during the lockdown, when they said you can't go outside, I saw everybody outside. Everybody was outside. And, you know, social distancing on the bus, some people, they'll just sit next to you. If the seat is there, they're just going to sit. So I felt like none of the other rules were enforced. You know, like wearing your mask on the train. You see people on public transport that mask all the time. And I don't actually know anyone that's been fined, to be honest. I did not see these rules enforced. So I just felt like, well, we're the ones that have been putting ourselves at risk for the past 2 years on the wards, looking after people. Now is when you want to enforce the rule. And I just felt like, why didn't they just put more effort into educating? It would have been a much kinder thing to do, to educate those who don't want the vaccine and actually spend time hearing their concerns and trying to explain to them why the vaccine be helpful. As soon as you make it a thing where you take away someone's choice, of course people are going to be upset. So I just think they went about it completely the wrong way.
A little bit controversial, but I think they underestimate how much of people's personal decision goes into working in healthcare. Because you say to somebody, we'll take away your right to work in the NHS, they'll be like, okay, fine. Then maybe I'll get more sleep. I'll go into a different role and make more money. People work in these roles because they're passionate about it. So don't take advantage of that.
That's a very good
You have
point.
to be passionate about healthcare and helping people to stay and work in the NHS.
Let's be real, it's not all glory.
So appreciate that and don't exploit that, basically.
I agree.
I think that's an excellent point. I think that's a good way to end, actually. It's very powerful. Let's go on to the next one. And guys, please do send in your comments, send in any questions. I can see them and I will read them out and give you a shout out. So make sure you're with us. Okay, so this one, Novak Djokovic, willing to miss tournaments over vaccines. So I have to admit, I haven't followed this story. I've heard stuff about it, but I haven't followed it. So maybe if anyone knows more about it than I do, then please do interject.
He's exercising his personal choice. It's his right. But I suppose maybe he's like tied into a contract of some sort. Because when you're a tennis player, don't you have to play so many tournaments? So if he's then saying that he's not going to, it's more than just his personal choice, but it's stuff like sponsors, like his people that he's signed to, it's all those things. So I suppose that's why it's a bit of a big deal, but I think he's just like anyone else. If he doesn't want to take the vaccine,
what can you do? I feel like all of us have that bit of teenage rebellion in us. So, you know, if you make something mandatory, we're like, nah. Not interested. So I don't know if that's the case. Like I said, I haven't followed this story, but I do wonder why he wouldn't take it.
Yeah, especially if you love what you do so much. Sometimes you think, well, if it's just get the vaccine and then I can actually carry on with what I love doing, then I'll just do it. But honestly, I don't know. I haven't really followed this story, to be honest.
So I'm guessing he's maybe he was on track to do well and win some trophies, but because of the vaccine, assuming he couldn't enter the the court.
I think it was Australia.
Oh, was it?
It was held in. And we know they've been mega strict about travel, especially. So
interesting. I think I suppose and it's good to have stories like this for those, you know, within the NHS or elsewhere who didn't want to take the vaccine. At least they know they're not on their own. And I suppose it's kind of similar to the Queen's one as well, that nobody's exempt, which is good. It's also good to know. It's good to know that even though Boris had his birthday party, people like Boris, we won't even go there. Okay, let's go to the next one. And Very serious picture of him that they used as well.
Yeah. It's a very serious decision.
Yeah, the NHS stops taking gambling funds to treat addiction. So I did actually look at this earlier, and I didn't know this, but the gambling industry gives money to the NHS to treat people that have gambling addictions. And now the NHS is saying they don't want it anymore.
Yeah.
What do we think?
I think it's bizarre. When I first read it, I was like, first of all, I couldn't get my head around the fact that for me, it was just a vicious cycle. Like, you're paying for them to have treatment for what you've caused. They're going to get better, then probably end up back gambling with you, and you're going to pay for their treatment. Number one. Number two, what surprised me is how can the NHS now decide that you don't want that money? We're broke, take it. Like, let's be real here. Like, you've been taking it, let's keep taking it. They've got the money, let's invest it back. Where else are we getting this money from? Listen, we don't have enough money for this system. Take what you can take.
My thing was, what was the treatment? We've had people come through gambling addictions. I had no idea they were taking money off these companies.
Really?
I don't think they're providing much to treat people with gambling addictions.
Well,
So what do you usually
like
do
60 million.
if you see someone?
I'm even trying to remember the last time I did see
Really?
someone.
Really?
Because if you think about the way mental health services have been broken down now in the community especially, it's by diagnosis. So your diagnosis sort of directs you to the services and how much support you can get.
Yeah.
So whether or not you see a psychiatrist or a mental health nurse depends on your diagnosis.
Yeah.
Whether or not you get psychology or CBT or whatever depends again on your diagnosis, because that will determine the level of need of certain treatment. And I don't even think gambling addiction makes it to a community mental health team.
But are you looking at gambling addiction, or are you looking at the after effects? Because are you looking at the depression for maybe now being broke, being on the streets, the homelessness, the things like that? To me, it sounds like it could be different avenues, because it says treatment services. Yeah. So maybe, I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
But there's I'm sure that, I don't know, the addiction then leads on to many things that you might see a patient for a different reason, but it could be through gambling.
So the last time we saw a gambling sort of addiction patient, we can treat the depression, but the depression was caused by the fact that you are under financial pressure from gambling.
Yeah.
There's nothing the NHS can do for that.
Yeah.
I feel like the responsibility is on the gambling companies to put more measures in place to support those people, and maybe saying no for them when they can't say no, but giving somebody a pill to cure the depression that was caused by the fact that they lost all their money gambling sounds a bit
We're treating symptoms, not the cause. Yeah.
Anybody would be sad.
Jay Mensa said NHS should still take the money.
I'm telling you,
that's a real Ghanaian at heart. But I think maybe do they have things like Alcoholics Anonymous for gambling? Do they have things like that?
1.2 million was awarded in grants to NHS-run gambling clinics.
Right.
Where are these clinics?
So this is really interesting though. We have a mental health nurse that works for the NHS who's never heard of a gambling clinic. That's really important.
That's because even where I'm working now, and obviously we have in most hospitals, in fact, you have an alcohol and drug addiction liaison service. You've got nurses, they've got registrars, they've got consultants even, and they have so many ties with the community mental health team. And I love the way they work, because they're actually really good at being in the hospital as well as being in the community, especially for patients who are really vulnerable. And I never knew they were gambling clinics.
Interesting. It's mad.
I mean, it's nice to know that they're there, but again, I feel like one of the issues actually in hospitals anyway, maybe in the community as well, is actually knowing what is out there for your patients. As a practitioner, sometimes it's difficult to be like, I actually don't know how to help you, and I know that there must be some sort of clinic available for you, but I just don't know. So the fact that there are gambling clinics, I'd be like,
never heard of them.
You told about it.
Where?
because I'm sure it's only one, maybe two.
It's true. Maybe it's Chelsea.
Maybe it's Chelsea.
Chelsea, the richer places. But yeah, so that's really sad actually. That you know, even if you take your money, most of us didn't even know that you existed, which is really really sad. I suppose I don't know if any of you guys had any patients or even colleagues or friends, family who's had a gambling addiction. Anyone? Yeah.
Yeah, there was a family friend, and it's quite sad actually, because then like the support network stopped trusting them, and they get tired of bailing them out financially, and they run up huge amounts of debt. Like it's staggering, and you think, oh, just gambling. Like you could really lose £40,000.
Wow.
Like just gambling. Like,
Yeah.
so it is sad. It is sad because then you see them get very quickly isolated because everybody has their limit. So even partners, family, mum, children even will eventually want nothing to do with them. Because if you can't trust someone financially, then you see that person a little bit as you need to separate yourself. So it is hard.
Yeah. I think the government has to do more it's just too accessible. So where I grew up, actually, I grew up in a small town called Basingstoke. I feel like I say that every week, guys. I grew up in a small town called Basingstoke. And I don't really, I know the town like the back of my hand. I can't think, where there's a gambling shop. But when I moved to London,
Everywhere.
I see everywhere.
Everywhere. I can name you two just from where I grew up. Right at the
on
top
our
of my
high
road.
street, there's two in such a short. So I think the government has to do more. Like, why are there so many?
Wow.
Yeah.
Definitely free on a highway.
Yeah. Jay Mentor said, I read about a reformed gambling addict who got lured back into gambling by free bets and ended up taking his life. Wow. Then I found out it's a troubling problem, especially the suicide.
That's so sad.
Yeah, I suppose as you're saying, you end up being so isolated. And debt is crippling for a lot of people.
Yeah, because especially in this country alone, it's so easy to get in debt without the gambling. Everything's just so sky high to pay for that I can only imagine with the gambling on top.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It's like I was talking about sunbeds the other day in my house. I don't know why sunbeds are still legal, because we know they cause cancer. You can just do fake tan instead. So similar things. The government just lets a lot of things stay legal, and you wonder why. Why do these things still exist? With regards to going back to the actual headline, I think that the industry should be responsible of putting some money into the NHS too.
Because I'm not gonna lie, even if you look at it like the smoking, if the people that develop the cigarettes start saying we pay for smoking cessation, yeah, you should.
Yeah.
Because they're coming in every minute in the hospital, they want patch, they want inhalator. I'm providing one every 3 days. You should pay for it.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
And I think the 16 million must just be like a drop in the ocean of how much they make.
Yeah.
So I think,
in fact, you're paying back what they paid you.
Yeah, I think they should. So Gani B said, I used to work in a betting shop. Okay. And my old manager stole money from the shop to go and gamble in the shop next door. Wow, look at that. Look at that.
You even gamble in the same shop.
At least gamble in your shop so the profit can, at least. Because I think with these gambling shops, surely I would have thought that those of you who work there know that it's a losing game. You're never going to beat the system. But it's interesting, isn't it, that the force to actually go and gamble, even in your full awareness of it's the manager, it's not the person that works there.
So
it's the manager, who knows you can't beat this machine. He has that addiction. So just proves how strong these things are and how powerful they are.
I think it's that hope that they could be the one that wins big. That keeps them, or they've seen somebody win big. So why not? Even despite how many times they might lose, it could still happen. I can still win.
Yeah.
That keeps them hooked.
That's so crazy. Thank you for that comment. It's a very interesting comment. Okay, should we go to the next one? I think this is the last one, actually. Students offered cash to defer medical degree. So students wanting to study medicine at the University of Exeter are being offered free accommodation and £10,000 cash if they are prepared to delay their course for a year.
Count me in.
I'm delaying the course.
I will take it.
I'm delaying the course.
What university is this?
So maybe just to provide context to those watching, so medicine is extremely competitive in this country, and usually what happens is you apply for medicine according to your predicted grades. Let's say you're predicted, 2 A stars and a B, and the university says, okay, in order to get in, you need to get 2 A stars and an A. So you have what's called a conditional offer. And if you get, grades that at least meet the conditional offer, then you can start university in September. Because usually the offers, you would have known you have an offer maybe by March or April time. So, but then obviously you don't get your results until August. So you have a few months to sort of get yourself ready and work up towards that target. And I think what's happened now is that students are really excellent. So more and more students are getting A stars and A's is quite standard. So probably what happened in this case is that the university gave out more places, more conditional offers than they had places. And then come August, every student has made their grades, so now they don't know what to do. And I guess the reason why it's even a question is I feel like medics in particular, there's maybe other industries as well, but with medics, we have this thing where we want to do things quickly. We're scared that if you don't go to uni now, maybe by next year you'll be stupid, or maybe by next year you won't want to do it anymore. There's like a lot of stress to do things quickly. But me, I would take the 10,000 cash.
And the free accommodation.
Yeah.
I think it's important because when you think about, so obviously I work at a university now and I see students who are maybe not coping so well mentally just because the past 2 years have been really traumatizing. And I think some of what has played part is their age. So are they mature enough when they go to university to understand what, obviously it's part of the job, but then to be able to deal with it, if that makes sense. So if you take a year out and spend some time just doing life, really. Just doing life, because when I see them, I'm just like, you're 17 sometimes, if it was like a foundation course included. And the mental maturity, I'm like, you don't have to rush. Go and do life and come back at 19 and do your course. It will help you a lot more. You'll enjoy it better, basically. Because you'll have a better experience.
I think what's interesting about this, and now, obviously, I would have, I would actually have chosen to defer the degree. But I think at the time, if that was posed to me as a student, I would have been scared. I'd have been like, oh, I don't have a place. That's what I would have focused on. I wouldn't, and it would have been more like a compensation. So it's quite interesting. Like now, I definitely know I would have, take the year out, take the money, and build myself. But at the time, I would have been I remember sort of sitting there waiting for A-level results and then waiting for your uni application to come in. And I wasn't mature enough at that point because everything, my whole life hinged around acceptance into that particular uni or any uni. So it's nice to know that this is like available, but I wonder if this was offered to me back then, would I have taken it? I think I would have been really upset and would have been trying to get to another uni, which is crazy. But
I think I would have done the same, to be honest. As much as I can sit here boldly and be like, I'm taking the 10. But I think, I actually agree. I think if it was me, 18-year-old Emma probably would have thought, no, I need to go to uni now. I want to go now, blah, blah, blah.
And I think especially because of your journey, because getting into medicine is tough.
Yeah.
You've done all your UK CAT, your BMAT, you've done this, that, your A-levels, and now you're like, yes, I got the place. Oh, wait, they want to defer me for what? So.
But I really love what Yetunde said. There's a popular YouTuber who I actually know personally. She's a very lovely girl. I hope she doesn't mind me talking about her story. I'm sure she doesn't because it's all over Instagram. But she basically... she's an international student, and I think you have to be in the UK for a certain number of years before you can get student finance. And she'd already done a nursing degree, and then she went on to study medicine. And they said to her, if you wait a year, you can get student finance for your medical degree, which would of course been much easier. But she didn't wait that year. She wanted to start straight away. So she started the course and she's self-funding herself. So you can imagine, you know, studying a course as hard as medicine, but working on the side to pay the £9,000 tuition fee and the maintenance costs and everything else that she needs. So she did that. But then literally, I think, I'm not sure, she after her second or her third year, she literally just burnt out, broke down, and now she's taken a year out because it was too much.
Yeah.
And you know, she was saying on her Instagram the other day, I wish that I just took that year out, because I'm still ending up taking a year out anyway,
Yeah,
but for completely the wrong for the wrong reasons, and I'm still having to self-fund my whole degree. So if there's anyone watching, you know, don't be afraid of taking that year out. You get to, you don't lose anything. And I think,
it's not failure. So delay is not failure. You haven't failed at anything because you're not going at the same year as friends or when people expected you to.
Exactly.
It's because I think that's sometimes what I see in students, that they failed because they haven't done it at that time. I'm like, okay, but it's going to happen next term or next year. That's going to make it so bad if you do it then.
Yeah. And I always say to people, when you look at your job, you look across and everyone's different ages anyway. No one goes, wait, so how old are you? When did you graduate? Wait, how old are you?
Exactly.
I don't care that the pharmacist next to me is 45 and I'm 27. Like, do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, if you do your job well, you do your job well. Like, if you add to the team and you bring like that to the team, then that's what they'll respect, not that you qualified at 22 or 23. And at the end of the day, you'll probably be better at your role because you've had that time to have your wellness, your mental well-being, develop yourself as a person. You know yourself now, and you know what you're willing to accept and not accept in your job role. So I think probably this is where it comes into just having a mentor, just understanding that there's someone that's gone before you and is able to tell you these things, because we can all sit here and tell you, but we know we never had that 3-4 years ago. But now we're saying, if you have those opportunities, develop yourself so that you're ready and you know the path that you want to take.
And I think one thing I'd also say as well, particularly for medicine, so the undergraduate medics will, obviously the degree is slightly longer, but with the undergraduate medicine of Dr. Alexis and I, we did, when the postgraduate medics joined us, so these are medics who have already done a degree, who will be a bit older, not necessarily much older than us, roughly the same age. They've already done a degree and they join us, I think when we're in 5th year, right?
Yeah.
They join us.
Yeah.
They were better than us.
Yeah.
And they consistently.
They were, they were just so, like, you know, they had everything together. Everything was together. They were organized.
Yeah. And they
were
us, we were just like everywhere, all over the place, trying to get ourselves together. And I just think at the age of, so if you want to study medicine and go straight into it at the age of 18, like we did, you have to make the decision probably when you're 15. And at the age of 15, what position are you in to decide? You're not just deciding your degree, you're deciding your job, your employer, because you're going to work for the NHS, whether you like it or not. For the next like however many years. How can you make that decision at the age of 15? I personally think that we should be like other countries like America, where you do your undergraduate degree first, and then if you still want to be a medic, you come and do your medicine degree later, because the postgraduate medics were just so well put together. They'd already had their, you know, their 3 years of maybe chilling or enjoying their degree, getting used to university life. So we're here trying to get used to university life and do medicine, and they're just like, oh, but we've already done that first bit. So they were just better, and it was like those of us who are like top of the year, and then all of a sudden you're just in the middle because the postgrads have joined. You wake up one morning and you're like, oh, the postgrads are here. So definitely, like, taking time out to just mature, to understand yourself a bit more, to understand the world a bit more is definitely beneficial. And I can say that with boldness because I know that even if I started later, I would still want to be a doctor. It's not that, oh, I had to do it quickly because maybe I won't want to do it anymore. Like, no, I still would. But definitely those who joined later just seemed much more well put together than I was when I joined at 18. We've got a comment from Narciss who said, sometimes kids, teenagers are really pushed around and are made to think they got a very big responsibility to do everything right because of their parents and society, which is really sad. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Absolutely.
It's very sad.
Put a lot of pressure. And I think it's even worse now with social media and everything else. That you always have to look like everything is well put together and portray yourself in a certain way.
And I think also nowadays it's a microwave generation. I always call it that. Like everyone just wants that like success quickly.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you see mental health getting a lot like bigger nowadays. Like you'll just see people posting things on Instagram where you thought everything was all fine, it was all sugar coated, and then all of a sudden they've had a mental breakdown. You're like, wait, what? Your life looked better than mine if I was copying you.
Yeah.
But I think you have to actually realise that all these pressures is what send people that way. And even me, when I look at the people that I used to go uni with, if they didn't drop out midway, now when I see them, they've completely dropped the degree because they were forced to go into it. So they're doing something completely different. Whereas if they'd taken that year to actually decide what they wanted to do, they never would have done that in the first place. So it's really important to... It's very hard because obviously as a kid and teenager, you are influenced by your parents, but it's very important to try and focus on what you want for you, because you've got to live your life at the end of the day, not them.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think anybody, some of the like mentees or any of the students that I come across, I always talk about sort of my story in terms of how I still managed to get through medical school, get through, you know, just sort of drag myself through the 6 years. But then I still had to take that time out and just sort of realign how I was actually thinking about the profession, how I actually wanted to live my life, how what I actually wanted to decide as my future, if that makes sense. So I think if you know, seeing this headline as well, I think it kind of maybe in a way raises awareness, but also maybe it's a little bit like empowering, if that makes sense, for the students to be like, actually, you know, I mean, this particular uni is offering you cash, but actually, have you thought about going a certain direction where it may not fit into the social norms around medicine, whereas everything you have to be on this conveyor belt and make sure you reach the end, you know, before a certain age, or else, you know, whatever. So yeah, I think it's nice sort of seeing this actually as a headline, because you can use it as a gateway to sort of show people actually, you know.
Yeah, it's very fun. Great. Okay, so I think that's our last news article. I really enjoyed this, guys. Good, intelligent conversation. So I will allow just everyone to go through it. Tell us your socials or anything that you're working on that you would like the world to know. We'll start with Yetunde and then work back.
So remember my handle, Mrs. _Yetunde_S, I believe it is. And at the moment, I'm just working on delivering mental health first aid courses. I just think it's really important because we get taught about our physical health from a young age and knowing the signs of ill physical health. But the same attention isn't given to mental health, and we all have mind, and we all have mind health. So I'm just working on building that up and making it accessible, really.
Excellent.
Amazing.
Aliyah?
So I'm on Instagram as Ms. Aliyah _, so M for mother, S for sugar, ALIYAH _. And what I'm working on really is just the House of Medics. So if you're watching, make sure you subscribe, and we'll go through our handles later. But yeah, just follow what we're doing. We're doing a lot of events, a lot of work. And I'm particularly enjoying the educational part, so working with schools and colleges, so look out for that.
Hi guys, so you can follow me on @Alexis on Designs on Instagram, on Twitter. I also work work as a health editor for WTC magazine, so you'll see some of my articles and my illustrations where because I'm an illustrator and an artist as well, so you'll see some of my artwork there. So give me a follow.
And her illustrations are amazing. She's too humble. So make sure you go and check out. I don't know a doctor that is as creatively talented as Dr. Alexis. So make sure you check her out on all her social media. I am Dr. Emma. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter @Dr. Emma AAA. So 4 A's at the end, one for the Emma and then another 3. And yes, I'm here. Of course, I am the biggest advocate for the House of Medics. We've got a lot planned this year. Of course, we were meant to have an event on Friday, but unfortunately, Sister Eunice said, no, you guys can't do your thing. You're trying to blow everybody up and down the country, left, right, up and down. So we will be, very soon, we will release the details of when that event will take place. It's going to be a screening of some of the work that we did in Ghana, and an opportunity to network and just meet other medics with like minds. Apart from that, we've got lots of other events planned this year. We're going to be doing a lot more. Look out for our e-commerce site that's going to be available on the website, and lots of other endeavors that we're engaging in. So just follow the House of Medics. Make sure you sign up on the website, because we send out newsletters that keep you up to date with what we're doing, and follow us on all our social media platforms. On Instagram and TikTok, we are at We Are House of Medics. On Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook, we are just House of Medics. And the website is www.houseofmedics.org. Make sure you're following us, because we've got so much planned and I don't want you to miss out. Don't say I didn't warn you. You'll be upset if you miss it. Thank you for the comments. Mar W, Rosata K, Narcissus, Lydia. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Jay Mentor says, need more info on mental health first aid, as I work with 6 to 18-year-olds. So Yetunde, we'll find a way to connect with you. Thank you so much. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. Make sure you like this video and subscribe so that you know when we're back. Thank you all.